It's loading. Oh, it says we're being live streamed.
All right. Hey, Michael.
Hello, everyone.
How's it going?
Looks like we're live on YouTube. I guess other people can try that link, but now we won't have to take the time to upload videos, which would be nice. Why did my camera change?
Nice. Hey, Bobby.
I will be right back.
Mm-hmm. So you all moved in, Commissioner?
All moved in. I'm currently at my parents' house and have pretty bad internet. So if my camera or something is slow, that is why. But this is my parents' office. How's your week going?
Very well. No complaints.
Nice. In the event that my internet really is just terrible, as soon as I start to try and share my screen, all of the documents in the OneDrive should be up to date. If you don't mind maybe helping to jump in, only if needed.
Was that to me or Commissioner Ray? Okay.
Sorry, that was
Josh,
Michael, apologies.
No, it's fine. If Commissioner Jacobson would make me a co-host. No, I take that back. I won't need you to make me a co-host. Everyone can share. Take that back.
Well, I should make you a co-host anyway. And I assume that Bobby in the attendee list is our Commissioner Lancaster, so I will promote to panelist.
Did it work to promote her, Michelle Lancaster?
You have to accept, but I'll try again.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. It actually kicked me when I was a panelist before, and it made me come back in as an attendee. I don't know why I did that. Sorry.
But hopefully it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
Hopefully the Zoom gods are kind to us. Got this new laptop and it keeps zooming in on me and I don't understand it.
Is it an Apple?
Yeah.
Is it one of those smart cameras that's so cool?
It's not a smart camera. No, this is this is a laptop that was upgraded to the M1 chip, which is Apple's own chipset, and doing something weird.
I've seen those I guess they're smart cameras where, you know, if somebody else comes in, it kind of zooms out and it follows people as they move. It's really cool.
Too fancy of technology for this guy.
What do you mean? You're our tech guru.
I mean, that's fair. I just didn't know how to respond to that.
I have to step away for one moment. A parent is calling me. I will be right back.
Sounds good.
Great. Thanks for the heads up. Okay, I'm going to start sharing my screen.
That'll be my cue to start the recording again then.
Sure.
Chair Footer, I noticed that we have our Commissioner Gallagher listed as Brad, and apparently he should be listed as Bradley.
Do you prefer to go by Bradley or Commissioner Gallagher?
I mean, you know, in written format only, maybe we could go with the full name, but I not a strong preference.
Names are important, and it does make you seem more official. Commissioner Lancaster, do you want me to, are you able to update your name so you have your last name in case folks are confused?
He may not be there.
For people who are on the attendees list and to our panelists, thanks for joining. It is 7. We're going to give it about 2 more minutes for others to join us, and then we will go ahead and get started. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Great. All right. It is 2 minutes after. I now call the meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. Happy Wednesday, everybody. A few administrative notes about Zoom before we get started. Today's meeting is being recorded, and in fact, it is being live streamed on YouTube thanks to Commissioner Jacobson. Closed captioning is available for each user by simply clicking the button on the toolbar below. Please submit questions through the Q&A function located on the top of the toolbar below. If you are calling in rather than participating through the web, you may raise your hand by dialing *9. Commissioner Ray and Commissioner Jacobson will be monitoring questions throughout the meeting. I will now ask Secretary Jacobson to please conduct the roll call.
Thank you, Chair Footer. Commissioner Gallagher.
Present.
Commissioner Lancaster.
I'm here.
Commissioner Ray.
Present.
Commissioner Brown.
Present.
Commissioner Newland.
Present.
Commissioner Jacobson, present. Commissioner Footer.
Present.
So that's with all 7 seated commissioners in attendance. We have a quorum.
Great. All right. So per DC law, the ANC 1E meeting was noticed to the community via listserv, social media, website, and e-calendar. Moving to the approval of the agenda, are there any items that people would like to add to the agenda or move around, take off? I'm happy to quickly scroll through it if that is helpful. All right. Hearing none, I'll now accept a motion to approve the agenda.
I motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Jacobson and Commissioner Brown. The motion is moved and seconded. All those in favor of adopting the agenda signify by raising your hand. Great. All those opposed? And any abstentions? All right. The motion passes. I can't see Commissioner Lancaster, or let me try to make this a little bit bigger. There we go. Okay. Now I can see all your faces, your beautiful faces. All right, so now we'll move on to the consent agenda. Just a reminder, all matters listed under the consent agenda are considered by the commission to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. Any commissioner may, however, remove an item from the consent agenda by request. The consent agenda this month includes approval of the February ANC 1E public meeting minutes, approval of the ANC 1E special public meeting minutes from March 3rd, approval of updating the SOPs to add methods of announcing public meetings under section in the SOPs. I will just state that what we are doing is outlining the 4 methods that we want to include and codifying it in our SOPs. That's why we're adding that, even though we did that during our first meeting. The next item in the consent agenda is a letter supporting the Lower Georgia Avenue Main Street Africa on the Avenue event at Bruce Monroe on May 20th. Next is approval of appointing Commissioner Newland as co-chair of the Public Safety and Engagement Committee with Commissioner Lancaster. And finally, on the consent agenda will be approval for ANC 1E to submit, should say 3, technical assistance fund applications, one for $1,000 for branding services that we already acquired. Second is for $3,200 for Howard University facility fees for hosting an ANC and 3 committee hybrid meetings per month starting in May. And then the last is roughly $500 for internet hotspot services to ensure that our hybrid meetings have high functioning internet. With that, are there any items on the consent agenda a commissioner wishes to move or further discuss?
Chair Footer, should the hotspot services say AT&T and not ATT&T?
You are right.
Okay.
All right. Hearing none, I will now accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Second.
And second, thank you, Commissioner Brown. All right, the motion is moved by Commissioner Jacobson and seconded by Commissioner Brown. All those in favor of adopting the matters listed under the consent agenda signify by saying aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
And perfect. All those opposed signify by raising your hand. And any abstentions? All right. Well, the motion passes. Thank you very much. All right. So we will move on to community announcements and presentations. So commissioners and members of the community can use this time to make public announcements, distribute information, or alert the community about issues. For members of the public, if you are here to discuss an item listed under official business, please hold your comments until we get to that item on the agenda. All speakers will have 3 minutes. We'll start with a special presentation from the DC Office of the Tenant Advocate, and they will have 5 minutes. Then move to the commissioners, then move to the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services, also known as MOCRS, and then the representative from Councilmember Brianna Doe's office, and then members of the public. Commissioner Ray, I see that you raised your hand. Did you have a question first, or were you just ready?
No, I didn't realize we'll do commissioners later, so I'll put my hand down for now.
No worries. Thank you. And for members of the public, please indicate you would like to speak by raising your hand using the button on the toolbar below. If you're calling in rather than participating online, you may raise your hand by dialing *9. I'll call on members of the public in the order that you raise your hand. So with that, we'll start off with a special presentation from Christopher Lucas and Cristobal Pugh Munson from the DC Office of the Tenant Advocate. Thank you both for joining us today.
I raised Christopher. I do not see Cristobal.
Hello. Well, I think Cristobal. I think we had a couple of meetings. We had we have a pretty booked month, but I think Cristobal had another meeting. And both of my other colleagues had other A&T meetings, I think, as well.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, can I share my screen now?
Absolutely. I will stop sharing.
Okay, is that working? Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay,
yep.
So I'm going to try to run as fast as I can through this. So this is basically the Office of the Tenant Advocate and how the OTA just serves the district tenant community. That's not working. The Office of the Tenant Advocate has been a voice for the District of Columbia tenants since 2006. I'm pretty sure a lot of you all know that. We're an independent agency within the executive branch of the DC government, charged with providing legal, policy advocacy, emergency housing, education, and community outreach services to district renters. Our agency consists of four branches. Most of you all, I'm pretty sure, are aware of our legal branch, our education and outreach branch, which now I've come over from legal to join education and outreach, our policy branch, I'm pretty sure you all are aware of that, and our emergency housing, which we'll get through a little bit more in depth of how that works. Our legal branch, of course, provides brief legal services to thousands of tenants and provide limited and full legal representation. The OTA attorneys may also assist tenants in their self-representation efforts, and that's mainly what we do, especially at this point, and in navigating mediation and other alternate, I'm sorry about that, dispute resolutions with landlords. Our legal branch, like the main number, is our only number, and that number is 202-719-6560 for issues such as eviction assistance, rent increases, lease-related questions, housing code violations, of course, pest mold, things of that nature, security deposit issues, and one of our big programs, the Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act, as well as enforcing tenant rights. Excuse me. Again, tenants are recommended to call our only number at 202-719-6560 and explain their legal issues to the intake specialist. At that time, the tenant will be assigned a case management specialist or to an attorney advisor. It actually depends on what the issue is. The case management specialist and or the attorney advisor basically triages the tenant, finds out what their issues are, discusses those issues with the tenants, and if a tenant needs to be moved up for further legal assistance to an attorney advisor for limited representation, or OTA advisors refer those tenants to court if they need to outside legal. Our policy branch, of course, works with the government and community partners, and that includes the council, the mayor, you all, executive agencies, the court, stakeholders, and other advocates in the community. The education outreach branch, that's what I'm with now. We do educational materials, classes, as well as virtual tutorials on issues important to district tenants, and participate in community events and activities. Education branch, I give everybody again, our number where we can be reached is 202-719-6560, and you request education outreach either or provided to your constituents to ask for things as assisting, forming, or sustaining a tenant association, customized classes. We are going out in the community and doing classes now at tenants associations requests, as well as other organizations, and we're doing outside classes, requesting to attend community events, and I hope you all have some planned this summer. I would definitely love to do something in the ward in which I first came from. We, like I said, we do listening sessions. We're doing that more and more now that things are opening up and we perceive and see things happening out there. And the eviction prevention classes, that's one of the programs that we've recently started during the pandemic. And that's one of the reasons why we're getting out there to really preach eviction prevention and give those classes. I'm pretty sure a lot of you are also aware of our other classes like renters' rights and at least the 101, and we have a slew of different classes. Our temporary emergency housing program, which I'll speak briefly about, it assists tenants that have been displaced in emergencies by floods, fire, or government closures. That program is only activated when the Office of the Tenant Advocate receives an alert, meaning an email from one of these agencies, that's the Department of Buildings when they close down and condemn a property, the DC Homeland Security, DC Homeland Security and Emergency Management Agency, DC Fire, and the American Red Cross. So when they give us a call, we provide limited hotel stay for up to 14 days. We do provide storage for people's personal belongings in order for them to coordinate services with the district government agencies, as well as find suitable housing, because that program is only for 14 days. Now I'm going to speak a little bit about our eviction prevention. Like I said, we actually offer a full class on this, and we have several different tutorials to go over the kind of, I would say, legal gambit of all of this. In the District of Columbia, as a lot of you may know, the tenant can only be evicted for 10 specific issues, 10 specific reasons in the District of Columbia. The most common of those reasons, of course, are non-payment of rent and for lease violations. The third, which is starting to come up, is for illegal activity in the unit. All tenants being evicted for a lawful reason in the District of Columbia must receive a written notice of the eviction, as well as of the court proceeding, including the reasons for evictions. A tenant who is being lawfully evicted in the District of Columbia has the right to, one, a written notice, as I just spoke about, from the landlord describing the reason for the eviction, an opportunity to cure the eviction if the lease violation is the basis for the eviction, an opportunity to challenge the landlord's claim in court, and of course, if it is for non-payment of rent, we recommend that the tenant pay the full amount of rent, and if there's other issues, to seek out a legal advisor to give them legal advice on what to do after that. But if it's for non-payment of rent, and especially since right now ERAP is closed, we recommend that they pay the rent. In order to be evicted in the District of Columbia, all landlords must go through the judicial process. If a landlord prevails and wins possession in an eviction case, the court issues a writ of restitution, and I'm pretty sure you all know what that legally means is basically that's the legal permission by the court for the landlord to take the property back, to regain possession of the property. I stress in the District of Columbia, all evictions must be scheduled and executed by the United States Deputy Marshal, because, as I'm pretty sure a lot of you all know, because of the Eviction with Dignity Act, self-help is illegal and prohibited in the District of Columbia, and that's basically when landlords change locks or remove persons' personal belongings. Those days in the District of Columbia are legally over. Landlords are no longer allowed to set tenants' belongings on the streets. If they do, and especially if a United States Marshal is not on site, we recommend the tenant use some type of evidence to show that they have something to do with that unit. Of course, if they're not in the unit, then it's going to be hard to find the most important documents, which of course is a lease or something showing that they have a business relationship with the landlord. But if a tenant is able to show just anything like a bill or some kind of mail showing that they're receiving mail at that address, that's enough for the police to order the landlord to let the tenants back into the unit. And what we then recommend at that point is that the tenant follow up with the court and
Mr. Lucas,
contact our office. Hello.
Yes. Hi. I just wanted to thank you so much for going through all of this, and I think that there's a lot of great insight that you're providing for everybody. I think what my one question would just be: do you guys have emergency type situations where if somebody was in that predicament that they could call you and receive that kind of guidance live?
You mean about the emergency housing or about any of this?
Yeah, if a landlord's coming up to a door and they're starting to throw stuff out on the streets, let's assume that people are in a great state of shock and there's a lot going on. Well, is there a mechanism to contact your office and gain some sort of advice on what they should be doing in the moment?
They can call our office, but what I would say is this, and I understand what you're saying, is that in that period of time, everybody's not thinking, and that's why we really recommend they call 911 first. 911 should slow them down. We also are doing classes for MPD to try to really, and that's going to be some uphill stuff, but we're really trying to make sure that MPD knows all of this so that it can move smoothly. But we recommend they call MPD. They can contact our office. I don't know if someone's going to be available at that moment to pick up in our office is the problem. And that's why we recommend they deal with the police first. That gets them back into the unit. Then we recommend that they definitely contact our office as well. So the first thing they want to do is file. I'm not supposed to give legal information, but they're going to file something in court to get injunctive relief.
I think
that's what's called.
Thank you. That answers my questions. Yeah, I think that the takeaway really should be that if people have a situation that they really should contact your office. It's very nuanced. There's probably legal advice, all of that, and the best thing to do is get the attention that people really need, which is to contact your office. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, please, go ahead.
I was going to say, if there's one thing I would suggest that you tell all your constituents. This is what I used to tell everybody, any tenant that contacted me. It is a good idea. It is a very good idea to at some point just take a cell phone picture of your lease. Then you have the prevailing document that gets you not only in the unit, but to strongly get some kind of consideration in court without even going through anything. So
thank you. That's great advice.
That just makes things a little bit easier, especially now, in the times we have now. It's easy once, because most people don't read their lease.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, Mr. Lucas, but we have a pretty packed agenda, and I do want to just move things along. So I am going to ask commissioners, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Lucas? All right. Well, Mr. Lucas, thank you so much for your time. And please, if you don't mind, email that presentation over to us. We'll post it on our website and help disseminate information.
I'll do that as soon as I possibly can. And thank you all for the time. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to go back to the agenda. All right, can everybody see my screen again?
Still, there we go. Yes, I can.
Great. All right. Next, we have the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services, and today we actually have one of the newest MOKers for Ward 1, Portia Foreman, with us. So we can bring Portia up.
She's been promoted.
Great. Hi, Portia. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. You have 3 minutes, please.
Okay. So hello, everyone. My name is Portia Foreman, and I am the new Ward 1 liaison along with my partner, Gerard. I think I sent an introductory email to most of you, and if I didn't, then this is my formal introduction. I wasn't able to prepare any presentations for today, but I did want to let everyone know that the mayor has wrote out the budget for the fiscal year 2024, which could be found at budget.dc.gov, and it's ward specific. But if you guys wanted me to go over a few of the things, the proposals or the investments that she has for Ward 1 now, I can do that.
I would say that this is your time, and however you think is best to distribute the mayor's message and her priorities at the moment for Ward 1 constituents, and by all means. I do have that one, the Ward 1 budget flyers that you sent around, so I'll bring that up in case you wanted to use that as a helpful tool.
Yes. And also, I know for one thing I did want to mention tonight was I know that there are a lot of questions in the air about the residential street sweeping. So that started at the beginning of March, and they were giving out notices, and it stopped on the 10th of March. So the fines are $45, and if your vehicle has to be moved, it's $100 relocation fee. But street sweeping is between 9:30 and 11:30, or 12:30 and 2:30. So that was just to give some information about DPW. Another thing were for the trash pickups, to just familiarize yourselves with the days that you have trash pickups, because I've been getting a lot of calls about missed trash. 311 is an option if your trash is missed, or if you have leaves or anything still in the street, or you can reach out to me so that I can get those requests handled. But I'll just go ahead and read into some of these as it pertains to 1E. So for the Housing and Economic Opportunity, she invested $24 million to continue work at Park Morton, and $25 for Bruce Monroe. For education and communities, we have $7.9 million to add the modernization of Bruce Monroe at Parkview. And as it pertains to investments in transportation and environment, we have, I'll read that, $23.5 to continue historic investments and bring your Ward 1 streets into a state of good repair. $112 million to rehabilitate, reconstruct, and maintain sidewalks citywide. $100 million to bring alleys into a good state of repair through maintenance and reconstruction. $13 million for the reconstruction of U Street between 14th and 18th Street, and $26 for the 8 bus priority project citywide. And that's between Columbia Road, 16th Street, Georgia, Berry, Kansas, and between 14th and Newton and Upshur. Does anybody have any questions about anything? Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, yeah, commissioners, any questions? Please feel free to raise your hand. All right, seeing none. I will ask members of the public if they have any questions. I do see that there is one member of the public who has their hands up, and it's under here as District Bridges.
Hi, District Bridges.
Give us 1 second. We'll bring them up to be able to answer or ask their question.
Okay.
Mr. Jacobson, are you on that? Great.
Okay.
District Bridges, welcome.
Hi, it's Kay Pearson. I'm sorry.
Hello.
Hi.
Do you have a question for the Moker's office? Gotcha. I will take that as you were raising your hand that you have an announcement when we get to members of the community. So
no, she remuted herself.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
There you
go. All right.
So, Kate, do you have a question for Moker?
Yeah, I do.
For Portia? Great.
Very quickly. I wondered about the 8 priority bus, the very last thing, $25 billion for that, or $26 million.
26.
Is that the bus lanes that are supposed to go from Berry Place to Kansas Avenue on George Avenue?
Yeah, so that would include from Columbia Road between 16th and California Avenue, and on Georgia Avenue between Berry Place, yes, and Kansas Avenue. And also on 14th Street between Newton and Upshur Street.
Okay, but that's to establish a bus lane, or is there some other?
Yes, it's for those are for the bus lanes. Yes,
bus lanes. Okay, all right.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. No problem.
All right. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. Commissioner Brown.
Hi, welcome, Portia, and thank you for breaking this down for our ward, all of these great investments from the mayor. So my one question is for the $100 million for the alley repairs.
Mm-hmm.
How are residents, how are they able to request an alley repair or reconstruction? And then what is the method for prioritizing alleys? Is the mayor doing another alley palooza, or, because there's so many requests for brand new alleys and alley repairs. Can you just talk a little bit about the process, since there's $1 million invested for this fiscal year?
Right. Okay. So at this moment, I do not have the answer to that. I can get back to you with this answer. And I can look into it. I'll take your contact information and I'll leave mine in the chat as well. But at this time, I don't have the answer for that.
No worries.
Thank
And
you.
Commissioner Brown, it's a great question, and just kind of to that point to everybody. So next month during our April meeting, we are expecting a representative from the mayor's office to come and walk through the budget in greater detail and have a conversation / provide or take some of our questions. So I think this is a great opportunity, and thank you, as Commissioner Brown said, thank you for the mayor's office for breaking down the budget is on a one-pager that affects Ward 1 in this way. We will take the next month to really go through it and prioritize some of the things that we want to ask when the mayor's office comes back, and we can have a more detailed conversation. All right, commissioners, any other questions for Portia? All right, hearing none, thank you very much. Next, I'm going to bring back the agenda. As I'm bringing it back, Commissioner Ray, I owe you an apology because I'm going out of order from what I originally said, and I was supposed to go commissioners and then our guests, but I did it out of order. So we'll continue down this path, and then I'll come right over to you. So next we have Kevin Pham from Office of Councilmember Brianna Doe's office. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Perfect. Great, thank you. Give me 1 second. Hi, everyone. My name is Kevin. I work in the I work for Councilmember Brianna Doe. And I'll just provide y'all some quick updates. As Portia noted, the mayor recently published her proposed budget for the fiscal year 2024, which starts the council budget oversight process. We recently finished performance oversight hearings, and each council committee, including the Committee on Public Works and Operations, which Councilmember Nadeau chairs, will analyze the budget of the agencies under his purview and recommend changes to the full council. Budget hearings will be happening starting from now throughout April. And we're encouraging any resident who wants to speak and share their input to testify. Your community input is really important, and you don't need any special skills or expertise to testify. The most valuable feedback we get are from residents who are everyday users of government or everyday consumers of government services. So after I'm done speaking, I'll drop the link into the chat of schedules of hearings if you're interested in testifying for any of them. And if you prefer not to speak, you're also welcome to submit written testimony. It'll be entered into the former record and considered by committee members. And if you're interested in going this route, you can email it to publicworks@dccouncil.gov. I'll also drop a link into the DC budget or DC Council budget process and a thorough explanation of it if you're interested in seeing how the budget process plays out. And then just quickly, 3 legislative update. After years in the making, the DC Council gave initial approval at the March 7th legislative meeting to decriminalize street vending and recognize it as a livelihood that contributes to the culture and economy of our city. With the support of street vendors and advocates, Council passed the Street Vendor Advancement Amendment Act, and it will go to a second and final vote at the next legislative meeting on April 4th. If this bill is passed, it will end criminalization for street vendors, creating a pathway in Columbia Heights and Mount Pleasant with a vending zone manager, which makes it easier for vendors to get licensed and creates an amnesty program for unpaid licensing related citations so that vendors can restart with properly obtained license. The second bill, which is now law, which I wanted to bring up, is the Local Resident Voting Rights Act, a bill which Councilmember Nadeau introduced and passed the council unanimously. The Senate, luckily the Senate did not take up the disapproval measure, unlike their successful effort to overturn the DC Criminal Code revision. So according to council, the bill became law on February 23rd, and according to the Senate, it became law on March 14th. So now our neighbors who pay taxes, attend our schools, will have a say in who represents them in local government. And this is also a plug to show how important pushing for DC statehood is. And then my last legislative update is that preschool teachers will be getting a big pay raise this year, thanks to the Home and Hearts Act of 2021. Councilmember Nadeau, in collaboration with Councilmember Charles Allen and Janice Lewis George, proposed a very modest tax increase on the wealthiest residents to generate reoccurring dollars, which will fund 3 council goals, which are really important. The first being raising wages for thousands of early educators. The second being making a historic investment in ending homelessness. And lastly, introducing a monthly basic income for DC individuals and families who are earning about less than $57,000 for a family of 3. And those are my updates. I'm happy to elaborate or answer any questions. And if I don't know the answers to them, I'm happy to follow up with you after this meeting.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions? Feel free to raise your hand or jump off mute. Yes, Commissioner Jacobson.
Thanks for the presentation, Kevin. Quick clarification on the Local Voting Rights Act. Might be flubbing the name there. Is that still needs to be implemented, and does it still need appropriations for it to actually go forward at this point, or?
Yeah, that's a good question. I will follow up with the legislative team and get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners? All right. I'll ask if there are any questions from members of the public. If you are interested in asking Kevin from Councilmember Brianna Nadeau's office a question, please feel free to raise your hand and we will call upon you. All right, seeing none. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right. And if possible, if we can move Kevin and Portia back down to the attendees list, that would be great. And now going to commissioners for community announcements, Commissioner Ray.
Thank you. I just wanted to pass along what I know most of the commissioners are already aware of, but the commission did receive its funding allotment from the DC government that is now in our bank account. So starting next month, I'll be able to start to report out on what our spending is month to month. So nothing to report from this month because we didn't actually have money from last month. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in the future. But I do actually have an answer for Commissioner Jacobson. There is a small funding requirement to update the voting roster. So I believe it's about $1 million, $1.5 million to the Board of Education, or not Board of Education, to the Board of Elections. So hopefully that money will be found. Thank you. That's it.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner Jacobson.
Thank you for that clarification, Commissioner Ray. I was just going to let folks know that I did a cleanup this past week, had some attendees for the community come through and were able to get several bags of trash from the area. This is just an announcement that if anyone ever wants to host their own cleanup in ANC 1E, I'm happy to help coordinate on that. And I know that DC government doesn't have trash pickers and gloves that you can get from their Helping Hands program, but I'm happy to lend out the trash pickers and gloves that I have for other community efforts. So feel free to just reach out to me, ANC, if you're an ANC 1E. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or announcements from commissioners? All right, seeing none. Members of the public, if you have any announcements that you would like to share, please feel free to raise your hand. If you are calling in and you are not on the web, then you can dial *9 and that will raise your hand. We will call upon you. All right, seeing none, we will move on to official business. So our official business is organized into 3 standing committees, then ABBA-related items, and then we have a kind of others category for things that didn't neatly fall into those areas. The committee chairs will begin by providing a brief update on their committee's activities for March. Then they will walk through each item of business and have 5 minutes per item to present. They'll take questions from commissioners and then audience members, and we'll do this until a motion is proposed. So with that, we will start with the Zoning and Economic Development Committee, and Commissioner Gallagher, you are recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Footer. So the Zoning and Economic Development Committee currently has no resolutions for consideration by this body this month, after resolutions last month, and I expect next month as well. So in our most recent meeting on March 8th, we only heard 1 zoning case this time. That was 451 Park Road. We also will hear that case again at our next meeting. So April 12th being our next meeting, I'll just provide a brief preview of some issues that we're looking at there. I think we'll hear a presentation from the local nonprofit organization DC Preservation League about a proposal they have in ANC 1E for historic designation of a property. I think we'll also want to discuss the medical marijuana licensing. I put an asterisk on that because Congress does have a few more days, about a week, to potentially act on that legislation before it becomes law. I think the committee also will consider, or at least discuss publicly, whether it has the capacity to hear ABRA cases, that's liquor licensing cases. That's something that the full ANC here has asked us to see if we have the capacity to move that to a committee in the interest of everyone's time. Other economic development issues, I'd like to see some more proposals on the agenda beyond the zoning cases that we've heard so far. So hope to have more updates on the economic development front next month. And then just to round out with a list of the zoning cases that we will probably be hearing again on April 12th. 451 Park Road, I mentioned, we'll hear again for the 3rd time. 447 Park Road, we should probably hear for the 2nd time. And then coming on the horizon are 650 and 654 Morton Street. And that's all the updates I have, and would welcome any questions anyone may have for the Zoning and Economic Development Committee. Thanks.
Any questions from commissioners? Right. Any questions from members of the public? If so, please indicate by raising your hand. All right, seeing none. Thank you, Commissioner Gallagher. Next, we will move on to Transportation and Public Space Committee, and Commissioner Jacobson is recognized.
Thank you, Chair Footer. We had our last meeting and covered a proposal from DDOT to remove some parking spaces on Otis Place Northwest to increase the tree coverage in the area. So we can go ahead and talk about that resolution now if you want to pull it up. I have also introduced two other resolutions. We were not able to discuss these at the Transportation Committee because these were some emergent issues that had come up since the meeting, but these are things that I notified the committee members about and gave them an opportunity to comment on it. So essentially with this particular resolution, we're saying overall we're supportive of DDOT's goal of increasing tree coverage in DC. It helps, with the heat island effect that we see in a lot of urban areas. It helps absorb rainwater and storm runoff, so there's less flooding in our area. We do have some concerns given how DDOT had proposed this particular project in terms of the location of the tree boxes and the impacts to traffic and parking on Otis Place Northwest that we're highlighting in here. So the main things that we wanted to call out were, one, we want them to proceed with some of the planned safety infrastructure that's near the intersection of Otis Place Northwest and New Hampshire. So folks know that bend when you're going north on Sherman toward I think it's a CVS, where Otis is, there isn't really a crosswalk, or the pedestrian infrastructure is relatively limited in crossing Otis, which can increase the danger for folks if cars on New Hampshire aren't careful. And unfortunately, drivers do speed through New Hampshire quite frequently. So want to make sure that DDOT is prioritizing that safety infrastructure. Painting some parking boxes and improving the signage on the street to reduce some of the confusion that residents are seeing around parking on the street. And then Commissioner Ray raised that some of the tree boxes in other locations in DC have been shorter than 18 feet in length. So maybe DDOT could consider shorter tree boxes to mitigate some of the impacts. And lastly, consider removing some of the parking meters that are in Otis Place near Georgia Avenue in favor of RPP. And if this doesn't cause a significant reduction in the efficacy of the project, then maybe move the tree boxes over there. My understanding, though, is that DDOT wants to put the tree boxes closer to New Hampshire because they will be implementing tree boxes on the other side of New Hampshire next to, I think it's Rock Creek Parkway. But if it's not going to cause issues with the efficacy of the project, then totally fine to put them where those parking meters are now too. And then just wanted to note a couple of the design challenges that we were able to discover after the discussion that we have with DDOT. So one, our understanding is that clustering the tree boxes can enhance the benefits of each individual box. So that's part of the reason why DDOT wanted to put them closer to New Hampshire initially. And then two, residents had raised concerns about the particular spots of the tree boxes and asked if they could be put closer to New Hampshire on Otis. However, after further discussion with DDOT, there are two stormwater catch basins there on both sides of Otis that prevent tree boxes from being placed there. And then lastly, just giving an overall recommendation that to DDOT that we support the idea of the livability study and including a review of the median design that they had discussed previously. And that's it for this one. Any questions from commissioners or comments? Sorry, Chair Frodo, you get to do that. I'll shut up.
No, go for it. Any questions?
Yeah, I had a comment if I could be recognized.
Please, Commissioner Gallagher.
Thank you. As the commissioner representing the north side, but not the south side of this block, just wanted to thank Commissioner Jacobson and his committee for, I think, a very careful consideration of the competing issues on this very dense, very crowded block, trying to balance the tree cover and water retention issues with also public safety and also just the physical demands for space, the sizing and location of some of these tree boxes. So I think it's a very reasoned approach in trying to balance competing interests. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Before I turn it to members of the public, I did want to point out, Commissioner Jacobson, that there are some edits that are still proposed in this. Are you at liberty to indicate if you're going to accept all of these? I just want to make sure that whatever we're going to consider tonight is the final document.
Yes, apologies. I thought I accepted all the edits. Is this the text with the edits at this point?
Mm-hmm.
I am fine with the text as it is on the screen right now.
Great.
So we can just accept all those changes.
All right. Perfect. Without knowing if it's going to impact the formatting, I will accept it afterwards. With that, I will turn it over to members of the public. If you have any questions or comments with respect to the letter before us, please feel free to raise your hand and we will call upon you. I see that we have Robin Lipp.
Yes, I will allow him to talk. And also wanted to call out that Robin, or Mr. Lipp, did a great job presenting to the committee and expressing some of the concerns of the neighborhood. You should be able to speak now, Mr. Lipp.
Thank you very much. I hope you could hear me.
Yep.
Great. So first of all, I just want to say thank you to Commissioner Jacobson and to Commissioner Ray. I agree. I think that you really listened to our concerns, and I think this is a very thoughtful and balanced approach. And I really hope that DDOT takes this into consideration and gives it serious thought in the design. My question is, given the timeline for these projects, and I know that the comment period I think is going to close early April. I think it's April 7th. If we have any indication whether or when we're going to get updates from DDOT on what the final design decisions are going to be.
Yeah, I can attempt to answer that. My understanding from DDOT, and I'd be curious to hear some of the more experienced commissioners on their experiences in the past, but it seems like they are taking all of the comments that they can get right now, and then they will propose the finalized design, and there won't be another opportunity for comment at that point. I'm seeing head nods from Commissioners Ray and Brown, so it sounds like that they agree.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lipp. Any other questions or comments from the public?
The only other item that I'll add, since I've seen this issue come up a few times, Mr. Lipp pointed out that there are issues with the trash truck that is coming through the area, going down the wrong way of Otis. I think right now we're working through some of those challenges with DPW to see if there are either alternate routes or a smaller truck, or if we need to do more with DDOT on changing the design. But I only call that out because I ran into the same issue in my alleyway. So if folks are having issues with DDOT, please flag it to me and your commissioner so we can follow up with DDOT and make sure that we're getting those needs addressed.
Great, thank you. All right. If there are no further questions, I'll now accept a motion to adopt the letter supporting DDOT's notice of intent for removal of parking on Otis Place Northwest with substantial changes. Is there a motion?
I motion.
To move. All right.
I second Commissioner Ray.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you, Commissioner Jacobson. All right, the motion is moved and seconded. All those in favor of adopting the resolution, the letter supporting DDOT's notice of intent for removal of parking on Otis Place Northwest with substantial changes, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. You broke up, but
Aye.
Aye.
And Commissioner Lancaster, I'm changing my tactic of, instead of raising hands, I'm going to ask for people to verbally articulate their vote, just because I know that you may not be on camera. So Commissioner Lancaster, I wanted to give you the opportunity to vote if you are with us.
Aye.
Great. All those opposed? And any abstentions? All right. With 7 votes in favor, 0 votes opposed, the motion passes and the letter is adopted. All right, Commissioner Jacobson, you are still on, and I will pull up the next resolution.
Yeah, and I might defer some of this to Commissioner Ray if he'd like to talk about some of the challenges, but the next resolution is a resolution supporting a traffic control device for Sherman Avenue at Lamont Street. So there have been, the short of it is there have been, I think, more than 10 traffic safety investigations, I think from TSI 2.0 that were submitted. We hear a lot of complaints from residents about the safety in getting across from Lamont over Sherman. And from the data that we saw, there were at least 3 accidents since the most recent traffic control changes occurred on April 22nd of last year. Commissioner Ray, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Thank you. I'll say that based on the original TSI requests and the work order number and the TSI request number that you see there, the DDOT did install some additional pedestrian yield signage, which generally has been found to be inadequate in doing anything to make it easier for people to cross at this intersection. So we're being a little more explicit in calling for an actual traffic control device, whether that be a beacon or a stop light of some kind, that could then be timed with the other lights, so as not to necessarily hinder the flow of traffic in any meaningful way, but to indicate when it is best for pedestrians to be crossing versus when it should be best for vehicle traffic to be moving. So this is yet another step. I will say, of the emails that I get, this is probably the #1 issue that I hear about continuing to move forward, especially from those people who live along Lamont Street, in some of the large buildings on that street that has a lot of new residents. So we have a lot more foot traffic along there than we've had maybe in years past. So we shall see. Thank you. That's it.
And then just education for other commissioners and the community. My understanding is that DDOT follows the Federal Highway Administration's guidelines for when they will implement an all-way stop control. And the Federal Highway Administration guidelines state that if there have been 4 or more crashes in a particular area within a year span, then the recommendation is to implement an all-way stop control. We haven't hit 4 yet since the past year, but given the number of accidents that we've seen, I think it's still prudent for DDOT to consider this before we have another accident there.
Great. Thank you both. Any questions from commissioners? I did just want to ask, as somebody who's new to this particular issue, if you guys felt comfortable, I would offer a friendly amendment to add an additional clause, whereas clause, just articulating what the actual issues are, because I don't know that intersection that well, and I'm not familiar with the reports, and I understand that the TSA reports that go online don't articulate what the issues are to the general public. And so while this is very factual and it's showing that there's a high demand for some attention to this particular area, I'm still not quite clear on what exactly it is. Is it speeding? Is it like, what's the heart of the matter? And then two, I'm not quite sure. So are we saying that this citation is, of the 10, is the impetus for this work order?
I'll take both of those. I would be fine if you want to try to add somewhere, either it's an additional whereas, but the issue is failure to stop when pedestrians are there to cross the street. So right now, if a pedestrian enters the crosswalk, car traffic is supposed to come to a stop so that pedestrians can cross. That's not happening. And then, yes, the reason for the inclusion of that particular number is so that they can tie everything back to the TSI. And there was a data request done. They had a device installed. And so if they want to go back and look at any of that information, these numbers should help them find that.
So I guess, Chair Footer, I motion that we add a whereas clause after where your current cursor is, between the whereas work order and whereas the TSI dashboard, that states something to the effect of, whereas motorists routinely fail to yield when pedestrians are attempting to cross Sherman.
I would say
that one more time.
Yeah, whereas motorists routinely fail to yield when pedestrians are attempting to cross Sherman as legally required.
I don't believe it needs to be a motion if it's a friendly amendment that you're the author,
okay.
Right?
That's fair. We haven't done one of these live yet, so
yeah.
And I'd like it to say
we can. Okay.
Oh, I was just going to say I'd like it to say motorists and not cars, or drivers.
If you don't mind, I'm a terrible speller, and so just to move things along, if we can kind of put that there as a placeholder, and you can add the specific language.
I'm perfect with that if everyone else is.
Great. All right, any other questions or comments from commissioners? I do believe that we have, gotcha. Sorry, I thought I saw a hand up. We'll now move to members of the public. Does anybody have any questions with respect to this resolution supporting a traffic control device request on Sherman at Lamont? If so, please raise your hand. All right. Seeing none. I will now accept a motion to adopt the resolution supporting a traffic control device request on Sherman Avenue at Lamont Street Northwest.
The motion.
Motion. Great. And is there a second?
Second.
All right, Commissioner Ray, thank you. The motion is moved and seconded. All those in favor of adopting the resolution supporting a traffic control device request on Sherman Avenue at Lamont Street Northwest, please signify verbally aye.
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 Great. And those opposed, please verbally signify by saying nay. And abstentions. All right. With 7 7 votes in favor and 0 votes opposed, the motion passes and the resolution is adopted. All right, we have Commissioner Jacobson, you're still on, and we'll move to the PUDO zone letter.
Yes, hope you're all enjoying this so far. So this is an urgent issue that came up and was brought to my attention within the past few weeks with the School Without Walls at Francis Stevens. So they are using the old Banneker High School as a swing space. It's a pre-K through 8th grade school. Basically, the issue right now is that the north side of the school faces Euclid. The west side of the school faces 9th Street. And if you want to scroll down, it might be a little bit easier for commissioners and the public to understand what exactly I'm talking about, to the figure 7, I think it is. It should be after the, yeah. So if you see, and I'm realizing that I did not make this colorblind friendly, so apologies if anyone is red-green colorblind, but if you see where that red line is on the north side of the school, that is where the pickup drop-off zone is currently. There are about 4 or 5 buses for special needs students that currently use that green zone that's on the north side of the school. And there aren't any buses that use the red zone that's beyond the green zone that's on Euclid over there. So right now that's just blocking off parking for residents and teachers who have an RPP pass. And the other issue is that in the afternoon, all of the school buses pick up the elementary students on the west side of the school where that green line is currently. And so what is happening right now is there are cars parked where those buses will usually pick up students because those students are exiting that side of the building. Since there are cars parked there, the buses have to double park and end up blocking the middle of the road. There's a lot of people getting angry, some potential issues with road rage. The fire station is in the southwest corner over there, and sometimes they need to go out north onto 9th toward Euclid to get to Georgia, and so they can't go that way. So the proposal here is to basically take the existing PUDO, move the portion of it that is not being used extending toward Georgia onto 9th Street so that I think it's 5 or 6 school buses can just park there and pick up students in the afternoon and reduce all the confusion that is currently happening. And this is something that the principal is asking for, something that community members have asked for. So I think overall it's an easy win for everyone. Beyond that, if you want to scroll back down to the pictures, there is a particular issue with, I think this is figure 5 or 6, with the corner of Euclid and 9th, where there is a no parking zone that cars routinely park in. And if you can see right there, there's a crosswalk. So cars that are traveling down Euclid and going to turn right on 9th Street, they don't really see the children that are crossing in the crosswalk. And thankfully there's a crossing guard there, but that crossing guard needs to manage several different areas here. And so when I did my observation on a Tuesday morning, there were several times where kids were almost hit by were almost hit by drivers because they were turning right and couldn't see the crosswalk. So my request to DDOT, in addition to modifying the PUDO zone, is to put in some sort of flexi post or bollard there so that cars can't park in the no parking zone, and to potentially raise the crosswalk, because this is going to be a school in the long term. I think after School Without Walls is done with it, it'll be moving to a different elementary school to be used as a swing space. And the only thing that I didn't cover is for that red zone that's on Euclid Street, that is not currently being used by the buses, that might revert back into parking meters, given how DDOT previously had parking meters there. So the request is that DDOT add a RPP exempt an RPP exempt signs for Ward 1 RPP if they do implement parking meters. And there are instances of them doing that for Ward 6. And I have a Google image screenshot of that, or Google Maps screenshot for that too. And that's my presentation.
Great, thank you. Any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Gallagher.
Yeah, once again, wanted to thank Commissioner Jacobson for the hard work on the resolution, including multiple site visits and witnessing the safety and logistical issues with his own eyes. Just wanted to say that I once again appreciate Commissioner Jacobson's very careful balancing of what usually are competing interests in terms of pedestrian safety and parking for residents, but in this case seems to actually be a win on both of those fronts. So well done, Commissioner Jacobson. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gallagher. You're too kind.
Any other questions from commissioners or comments? One thing that I would just add, Commissioner Jacobson, I learned a little bit today. It's Arts in the Right of Way program. If you notice that in on 8th and V Street over by where I am, there are some nice art that is blockading or around the corners of the street at certain intersections. And it's strategically designed in order to help with some site issues and blind spots, that kind of stuff. And DDOT manages it, and the woman who I'm going to be speaking with, Emma, what's her last name? Blondin, is happy to talk to us about it. Apparently our area is an area where they've done a lot of these pilots, and it seems like it could be an interesting way to get some of the stuff in there and maybe incorporating into some of the character of the community.
Thank you for that, Chair Footer. I would love to speak with her about that.
Yeah. All right. Any questions from members of the community? If so, please raise your hand. All right. Seeing none, I will now accept a motion to adopt the letter supporting adjusting the PUDO zone and additional safety improvements near school without walls at Francis Stevens. Is there a motion?
So motioned.
Great. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Gallagher. The motion is moved and seconded. All those in favor of adopting the letter supporting adjusting the PUDO zone and additional safety improvements near school without walls at Francis Stevens, please verbally signify by saying aye.
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 Great. Those opposed, verbally signify by saying nay. And any abstentions? With 7 votes in favor and 0 votes opposed, the motion passes and the letter is adopted. All right, Commissioner Jacobson, that is everything from your agenda. Is that correct?
Yep, I will just say that the next TPS meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, April 5th, 2023 at 7 p.m. And you can find out more information on our website, anc1e.org. And if any community members have safety concerns in their area, happy to meet with you and your commissioner. Commissioner Brown and I had a nice discussion this weekend about Columbia Road, and looking forward to working more with her on that.
Great. Thank you very much. All right, next we will go to Public Safety and Engagement Committee, and we'll recognize Commissioner Newland, the recently appointed co-chair for Public Safety.
Thank you, Chair Footer. I can keep this brief. We don't have any resolutions or business for the group this evening. So looking forward to our next meeting, which is tentatively scheduled for Monday, April 24th. But more to come soon, and I'm excited to start working on this as I'm officially now co-chair as of about an hour ago. So thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. All right, we will now move to ABRA-related business. So first up, we'll start with an update on Mr. Rotisserie Chicken LLC's request for substantial change. And Commissioner Ray is recognized for 5 minutes.
Good evening. I don't think this should take the 5 minutes. I'm recommending that the ANC take no action here. Mr. Rotisserie Chicken has existed on the avenue, I want to say, for maybe 10 years. They used to be at the corner of Park Road and Georgia Avenue, and then they moved across the street to between Morton and Lamont. And this substantial change is just to bring their liquor license into alignment with their normal operating hours. They have operated until 4 a.m. Normally, it operates as a takeout at that time. People come and use Uber Eats and other kind of delivery services to pick up food from there. The owner and I at least chatted via email to make sure that I understood what they were kind of doing and that they're used to operate. So there seemed to be no reason to do anything further with this particular application. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any questions from commissioners? All right, any questions from members of the public? If so, please raise your hand. All right. Seeing none, there is no action that needs to be taken here, but as Commissioner Ray pointed out, please let the minutes reflect that the commission is deciding to take no position on this matter. All right, next, there is a resolution protesting Bravo Lounge's renewal of an alcoholic beverage license before the commission. The chair recognizes Commissioner Brown for 5 minutes.
Excellent, and if the resolution can be pulled up on the screen, that would be great. Really briefly, the applicant, who is, I believe it's HM Theater Jazz Lounge, has let's see, yep, has applied for a renewal of their liquor license for Bravo Lounge, which is located on Georgia Avenue at the intersection of, I believe it's Hobart Street and Georgia Avenue. So I've known this business for a long time. They've had different owners. I'm not familiar with this particular owner. I've reached out several times, and I've reached out primarily to ABRA, as the business is currently closed. So I'm not quite sure about just the overall operations of the business. And I'm familiar with what they're requesting because it's said in the notice, but I have some concerns about the hours of operation and alcohol service, particularly in the Summer Garden. And they've also requested an entertainment endorsement for the Summer Garden up until 3:00 a.m. And so I'm really interested in negotiating and potentially settling on some hours that are aligned with the rest of the establishments on Georgia Avenue. But in order to have that conversation, unfortunately, we have to enter into a protest for us to, ABRA to get the new owner and myself and other commissioners that are and community members that are interested to have a conversation with the owner. I am familiar with ABRA's process, so I'm prepared to, represent the commission should we have to engage in those conversations. So this particular resolution outlines what we would be requesting and the areas of concern. So I'm just happy to yield to the chair to see if there are any questions from the commissioners or the community.
Thank you. I did have a clarifying question. This language, very articulate and appreciative, but would it lock us into only this issue in the event that you may find something in further conversations, anything of that nature that we just need to be cognizant of and adding here that it would kind of limit us to just this?
I don't believe so. I think that once you start the ABRA process, it's all open for discussion, and ABRA really wants the community and ANCs to settle on whatever issues come up. There's a mediation that happens even prior to the hearing, and I'm hopeful that we just kind of work through those issues during mediation. So I'd like to see where the owner is. I think that what we would be recommending will be very similar to the rest of the businesses on Georgia Avenue. It's just the hours of operation in the summer garden, particularly outside, alcohol service and operations, but also entertainment endorsement. So if they are open to adjusting those hours and just, adhering to whatever the language is that the rest of the businesses are have agreed to, then I think that that's a good win for us. Just to answer your question, no, I don't think so, but it just kind of gives some justification to the provision that's in DC code, and we have that outlined at the last bullet.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions from commissioners? All right. And are there any questions from members of the public? If so, please raise your hand. All right, seeing none. All right, I'll now accept a motion to adopt the resolution protesting Bravo Lounge's renewal of an alcohol beverage license. Is there a motion? So moved. Thank you, Commissioner Brown. And is there a second?
Seconded.
Thank you, Commissioner Gallagher. The motion is moved and seconded. All those in favor of adopting the resolution protesting Bravo Lounge's renewal of an alcoholic beverage license signify verbally by saying aye.
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 Great. All those opposed signify verbally by saying nay. All right, and any abstentions? All right, with 7 votes in favor and 0 votes opposed, the motion passes and the resolution is adopted. Thank you, Commissioner Brown. All right, our next item is to Commissioner Jacobson, another protest resolution, and I will pull that up now.
Thank you, Chair Footer. I can keep this one relatively brief too. Yeah, again, this one's mostly to keep our options open at this point. I actually was able to connect with the business owner a couple of hours ago, and I think he's on, so he's going to chime in to speak in a couple minutes here. But essentially, Medusa has our Casa Lounge, which is doing business as Medusa Lounge, is renewing their liquor license. They wanted to make some adjustments to their settlement agreement. We weren't able to connect on that until today, but they are making a lot of improvements to sound mitigation for Medusa Lounge to help address residential concerns about sound. And pretty excited to hear everything that they have done there. And we'll actually be checking out the facility tomorrow night just to see what the sound systems are like and how exactly they're mitigating it. So this is just to keep our options open. We'll likely need to have a special meeting sometime in April before the actual ABRA hearing to finalize that settlement agreement. But in the interest of keeping community members informed and allowing their input into the process, I think it's in the best interest for us to protest this while we work through that settlement agreement.
Great. Any questions from commissioners? All right, and any comments or questions from members of the public? All right, I see that we have two, and Patrick Nelson, looks like you put your hand down. So we'll move on to a caller identified as Dave. And Patrick Nelson, if you do have a question, please feel free to raise your hand again. But we can bring Dave up. All right, hi Dave, you are on. Please feel free to unmute yourself.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Dave. I'm the new owner of Medusa Lounge, running a trade name West Medusa Lounge, located at 2632 Georgia Avenue. We had a conversation, me and Mr. Jacobson had a conversation earlier today, and we informed him that we made a substantial change to ensure that the issues that were before Medusa Lounge, we were aware of the issues during the COVID or before COVID with the previous owners, but we take over this place back in January 14th. And since then, we made a substantial change, and we're working with the Abra people, also with the police. And we're also planning to have 2 police patrol cars posted outside during our business hours. So to make this, the environment, to make the neighborhood safe and to keep us all safe. So we're willing to do whatever with the neighborhood is asking us to do. And if there is any issues, any concerns, I can be reached out. I can drop my contact information in the chat box. And also, as Mr. Jacobson addressed, like we'll have a meeting tomorrow, and he'll visit the place tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have a question with respect to that. Are you hiring private security? You said you're going to have 2 patrol officers in front of the location. So are you hiring private security?
We have a private security, but in addition to a private security, Abra suggests us to have a police car outside. That goes with the Abra people. I think Abra can contact the DC police officers with our district, and they can give us 2 police officers that we can pay them. That will keep the place safe and the neighborhood safer. So we're planning to do that. We're working on that. I think they will let us know with a week or 2. That's how long the process takes, but we'll get that once they approve the application.
So you would pay off-duty officers to basically come on duty and be located at your facility or at your location?
Yes, yes, sir.
Great.
I think the program called RDO. I think there's a program called RDO with the Abra and a DC police, MPD. I think that's the program called RDO.
And I'm not familiar with the program. I'm very happy that it exists, and I think I know a little. I can assume a little bit of things on there, but with the city having a shortage of police officers and things of that nature, I would highly recommend having some sort of contingency plan in the event that they're unable to participate just because of a lack of staffing. But I will leave that to you and Commissioner Jacobson to continue to discuss. But I do highly recommend that something along those lines does make it into the settlement agreement.
Yes, we already have a private security company that's working right now, but this is an addition. That's why the process usually takes between 3 to 4 weeks. We're in the 2nd week right now. I'm probably going to hear from the DC police officers between sometime this week or coming week.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Ray.
I'm only going to mention it's the reimbursable detail program is RDO. It's an ABRA-led program that does contribute money. Both the operator and ABRA contributes money in order for police officers to be detailed to a specific location, and they are off duty when they're doing that. So they're doing this in addition to their normal hours. So I just wanted to make sure people understood what we're talking about. That's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Jacobson.
Yeah, thanks again to Dave for joining the call tonight, and appreciate you bringing that up. I think one of the challenges that we're running into in this area is that some residents believe there's an illegal nightclub next door to Medusa. I think there's strong evidence that that is the case. MPD disagrees with that assessment, but ABRA has fined the building next door to Medusa for being an illegal nightclub. So there's some disagreements between DC government as to what exactly is happening there. And I think if MPD officers were to be able to be stationed there, they could build a better case for what exactly is happening next door. And I think generally speaking, like illegal nightclubs are bad for the community, and it ends up reflecting poorly on businesses in the area because community members think that sound might be coming from them when it's really a place that's nearby.
Great, thank you. All right, and thank you, Dave. I will say let's keep you, if we can just mute you real quick, but stay as a panelist for a moment. And I saw Patrick Nelson, you had your hand up, but now you don't again. I am going to give it just a moment if you, not sure if it's a glitch or if you're just changing your mind, but want to give you a moment. Yes, okay, so I see a hand go back up. So Patrick Nelson.
I'm sorry, this button says one thing and then I click it and it says something else. My mistake.
Not a problem.
Take the opportunity to stress, and I've had conversations with Josh about this. This property has been a nuisance property for quite some time. I personally know the owner of the building himself, and we had a 6.5 hour or 6 hour ABRA meeting with the last license when it was renewed, and put that settlement agreement in force. And I'm just putting it out there that I wouldn't change anything on that settlement agreement at all, because it took us a lot of work to get it. And it's really important for the community members that are right adjacent to that property. I live about 4 houses down from it. There was gun shootings out in front of there. We've had issues with parking. I understand and I'm supportive of him doing the RDO thing. I think that's a good solution. And as Josh said, we've been working. I personally worked on getting the illegal club next door closed, and then it was reopened. The police department actually did come in back before the current commander was in place and raided that place. DCRA literally boarded it up. So I think having the police in front is important, and whether you don't have the police available because of the point that he made about it being shortage, but they're not getting paid directly. It's supposed to be on their off time that they do this. Then having some kind of security is important. And then I think that, and I know Josh has already done this, but I think he needs to definitely reach out to the adjacent neighbor and make sure he's aware of all this, because I don't even think that he knows that this is going on, other than some emails that have been flown. So just stick to what you're doing here. I think you're going in the right direction, but be really firm with this, because this has been a problem child for a long time.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Jacobson, any follow-up to any of that?
I appreciate the comments. Definitely understand the goal of trying to maintain the settlement agreement as much as possible. The main thing I want to think about is just there's a give and take, right? Dave is offering, Medusa Lounge and Dave are offering some additional concessions like the RDO officers and additional sound mitigation and things like that that aren't currently in the settlement agreement. I don't have the full language yet. It was just something that we discussed tonight. But once I get that, I'll be sharing it with you, Pat, and the other neighbors. And so we can have a discussion there. And I'm sure, I guess I don't want to speak for Dave, but I'm sure he'd be happy to have other neighbors walk through and understand the work that has been done to reduce the impacts from sound.
Great. All right. Thank you, Patrick Nelson and Dave. We'll put you back under the attendees. Any other comments from members of the public? All right, seeing none. All right, so I will now accept a motion to adopt the resolution protesting Medusa Lounge's renewal of an alcoholic beverage license. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Jacobson. And is there a second?
I second.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Lancaster. The motion is moved and seconded. All those in favor of adopting the resolution protesting Medusa Lounge's renewal of an alcoholic beverage license signify by verbally saying aye.
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 Great. All those opposed, please signify by verbally saying nay. Any abstentions? All right. With 7 votes in favor and 0 votes opposed, the motion passes and the resolution is adopted. All right, we are getting close to the end here, my friends. So next, there is a resolution supporting Hands Off DC before the commission. The chair recognizes Commissioner Jacobson for 5 minutes, and I will pull up that resolution now.
Thank you, Chair Footer. This resolution is just to recognize how frustrated we are as a commission with Congress and the president for overruling the rights of DC voters. Whether or not you agreed with the particulars of the RCCA, it should be up to DC to decide how to run its city. So several whereas clauses in here regarding why we're frustrated, what we hope can be done in the future, specifically calling out that we want to see some more action around statehood for DC, and that we're upset by the resolution to overrule or override the RCCA by the president. I think that was signed today or yesterday. So appreciate everyone on the commission for working on this with me and providing comment.
Commissioner Jacobson, do you mind just outlining some of these resolved clauses and just what exactly you're looking for from a response or anything of that nature?
Yeah, so like I said, condemning the overruling of the bill, asking Congress to allow us more rights to self-governance as a large city that's larger than a couple of states, asking them to respect the will of the voters in DC, given that we elected the council, we elected the mayor, and we should be able to govern our own affairs. Asking for all residents in DC to be pushing for fuller representation so that we can have more control over our local affairs. And then reminding the public that as an ANC that we think it's important that we have democratic representation and self-determination.
Great. And it looks like, did we take out the clause asking for an apology?
Yeah, I think some commissioners said we should be realistic and that would never happen. So you might as well just like keep the list of asks to things that maybe will happen and not things that will never happen.
Yes, for full disclosure, that was me. Great. Any questions from members or commissioners? None? All right. Any questions from members of the public? Also, I see that Bobby may have been sent back to the attendees list if we want to promote her to panelist again.
Doing that now.
Thank you. Members of the public, if you have any questions or comments related to this resolution, please feel free to raise your hand and we will call upon you. All right, seeing none. I'll accept a motion to adopt the resolution.
So moved.
Great, thank you. And is there a second?
Second.
All right, Commissioner Brown. The motion is moved and seconded. All those in favor of supporting adopting resolution supporting hands-off DC, protecting local democracy and autonomy, please signify by verbally saying aye.
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 Thank you. All those opposed signify by verbally saying nay. And any abstentions? All right. With 7 votes in favor and 0 votes opposed, the motion passes and the resolution is adopted. Thank you very much. Commissioner Brown.
There's a question in the chat by Lydia, and she asked, Lydia Curtis, and she asked, how will the resolution be delivered?
I'm planning to email it to the, oh, sorry. I was just planning to email it to the Office of the President.
I would also maybe ask the Office of Government Affairs in the mayor's office if there's anything that they can do to help kind of promote it. It would at least be respectful for us to CC them on it too.
Sure.
All right. So we have one last resolution before the commission this evening, and it is with respect to authorizing members of the commission to provide testimony during the budget hearing process. And the budget, can you all see the resolution?
Yep.
Perfect. So we've been working with the committee chairs to articulate some of the priorities that we would like to put in front of the council and take advantage of the budget hearing process. The committees went back and discussed and brainstormed, did some research and put together some bullet points around things that we may want to highlight. I do want to emphasize that this is a high level kind of bullet of things that we want to focus on. It is not the full testimony. Unfortunately, we find ourselves in a little bit of a time situation where we want to provide members of the commission the authority to be able to provide us that testimony, but we will not meet again until the end of April when all of the budget hearings will be over. And so with that, the thought was that we would be able to approve and discuss the particular priority areas, and then the commissioners will have the autonomy to be able to provide context and the actual language for how they want to say that we are supporting these priorities in the mayor's budget. So with that, this first clause is granting Commissioner Jacobson, the chair of ANC's 1E's Transportation and Public Space Committee, authorization to provide testimony during the DC Council's Committee on Transportation and Environment, and to provide testimony with respect to the District Department of Transportation. And so I'm going to ask Commissioner Jacobson if you want to just quickly talk about these 3 bullets.
Thank you, Chair Footer. Yeah, so the first one is the Metro for DC Amendment Act. That is the bill that allows for free buses within District of Columbia, free Metro buses in particular. The circulator buses would not be affected by this. I know there have been some disagreements between the council and the CFO as to whether or not this is funded. I take the council side on this, but might as well just remind them that no matter what, this is an important piece to fund to help reduce bus boarding times, to help increase ridership. And it's especially important for Lower Georgia Avenue because of the upcoming bus lanes and how frequently folks travel buses on Georgia. The second piece is fully funding the Vision Zero Enhancement Omnibus Act of 2020 to improve the safety of roadways. So this was an unfunded, I think the term they use is unfunded mandate that the council passed in 2020 with, I think, a few dozen requests to the mayor and DDOT. I wanted to highlight a couple that I think are important to our commission area. So that's fully implementing the Move DC plan, the Complete Streets plan, and the mandatory protected bike and bus lane requirements. So those are covering things like when DDOT is designing a roadway, they need to take all users of that area into account and not prioritize motorists over the others. And then in terms of the bike and bus lane requirements, that's if DDOT is redesigning a roadway and they already had a bike or a bus lane on their future plans for that roadway, then they are required to implement that bike and bus lane because it'll help save money if they don't have to redesign that roadway in the future. The other piece in there is the requirement that DDOT post incident reports on their website 60 days after a major collision that lists planned design changes to increase safety. So if there is a major accident that involves a death or serious injury of someone, then DDOT has to do some sort of follow-up report on what they're going to do to help prevent that from occurring in the future. And then the last piece, this was an idea that I saw Councilmember Nadeau include in her budget requests, and something that other ANCs in Ward 1 had requested in the past. I think ANC 1A might have passed a resolution along these lines, but essentially asking for the Georgia Avenue bus lanes to be center running bus lanes instead of on the side of the road as they are currently planned.
Great, thank you. And then Commissioner Gallagher, I put this here as a placeholder. As we mentioned in the original conversation, there's no requirement for anybody to provide testimony. Again, this is just a placeholder, so I want to ask if there's anything that you felt like you might want to get authority to give testimony for.
Thanks, Chair Footer. Yeah, the Zoning Economic Development Committee has not yet had a chance to review the planning and economic development part of the budget. So I don't currently have any placeholder text. So sorry to throw a wrench in the process. I don't know if we are able to circle back with the specific text once we've passed this resolution, or how that would work. Certainly defer to more steady hands on that front.
Yeah, the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development is in middle of April. I believe it's like April 12th. And so even if we had a special meeting third week of April, I think we would kind of miss the window. And we do want for the commission to have an opportunity to review at least the bullets of what would be articulated and then grant that authority. So I think if the timing doesn't work out, there's, clearly there's no problem with that, and maybe we can figure out another way to try to leverage our voice. But if there's nothing, I'm going to just suggest I'm going to take this out from here for now.
I guess, could we give broader guidelines? I don't know if other people would be comfortable with that, but if we wanted to have a statement along the lines of, we're supportive of efforts to increase housing density in the area, and I don't remember what the other projects are that are coming up that are going to be run through DMPED, but yeah.
Commissioner Ray.
I'll just say the good news on this is that the two projects that would be most at mind are the Park Morton and the Bruce Monroe site, which, as we heard from Portia this evening, received, I believe, $26 and $25 million in the mayor's budget. So at least specifically on DMPED, we probably already are pretty well covered here. So if we don't have anything, it's not the end of the world. The only issue that probably isn't in the list anywhere that we might want to think about is there is the revamp of the Parkview Rec Center probably is going to need more money, and it's no more money was added to the budget. I mean, it's already been in the budget for many years, for many cycles. It's now coming due, but whether or not there's enough money there is a question. But I think that's something we can probably handle individually. It doesn't necessarily need to be here, but I wanted to put it out there. That's it.
The only thing that I was potentially interested with respect to DMPED is that I recently learned a lot about some of the programs that they provide and don't do a very good job of promoting them. And actually had two people who are small business owners actually go on to the website and actually try to apply for the amazing list of different funding opportunities that are out there, and I learned from both those people that they felt it was very cumbersome and required a lot of application kind of evidence and going through a lot of additional hoops that ended up kind of promoting more fees and time in order to access those funds. So I guess the only thing that I would ever be interested with that is not only to promote the programs they have, but to take some of the burden off of the applicant in order to access them. It is an extreme deterrent, and I think that just kind of goes against what the entire point of those funds are for. And I think we can we could talk about that in a variety of forums, and it doesn't have to be during the budget process because I think they're well funded. It's just about people actually using them and administering them. Any other comments? And I apologize, I do want to hand it over to Commissioner. So this last clause here is around public safety, and it is providing Commissioner Lancaster and Newland, the co-chairs of our Public Safety and Engagement Committee, the authority to talk or testify during the Judiciary and Public Safety Committee with respect to two agencies, the MPD and the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and Justice. And so, Commissioner Newland, I'll give it to you if you want to walk through these three.
Thank you, Chair Footer. So the first point is a little bit general, but just calls for continuing to make investments that will strengthen our public safety, specifically pointing out issues of gun violence and auto theft, as well as increasing awareness to the number of different services that are available to residents. The second one is mostly around accessibility, just recognizing that English is not everybody's first language, so making sure that emergency services specifically as they relate to public safety, are available and accessible to the population in our district. And then the third is just recognizing that, the Georgia Avenue is a, vital corridor running right through, and that we should have a consistent law enforcement presence so that, the homes, businesses, and, our community as a whole is, safe, and that we can, that also ties into transportation as well, but just making sure that everything's safe and we have, local economic growth as well.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments with respect to the public safety arena?
Yeah,
Commissioner Jacobson.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioners Newland and Lancaster for this. Would you be willing to entertain a point around funding the DC Crime Lab? Because I saw the mayor plans to cut 120 FTEs from the Crime Lab, and my understanding is roughly half of the cases that the U.S. Attorney's Office sees are no-papered, which means police make arrests and then the Attorney's Office thinks that there isn't sufficient evidence, and some of that has to do with issues around the Crime Lab.
Yes, I think that's something that I would like to look into and potentially crowdfund for, if possible.
Great. So as the author of the resolution, I'll accept it as a friendly amendment and add a bullet here around supporting funding DC Crime Lab, and over the coming days we can turn it into a complete sentence, and anything else you want to kind of add to that one particular piece. Any other comments? I do want to kind of throw maybe a hot potato out there with on this one and ask about whether we want to say anything about increasing funding for MPD to hire additional police officers, anything of that nature. Commissioner Ray.
I believe, and again, it's only came out today, and so I haven't dug into it myself, but I actually believe that the mayor and the police chief are reducing the FTEs when it comes around staffing. The reason for this, I suspect, and again, I haven't had a chance to really read into it, but I suspect that the reason is that they know how many officers they're going to be able to hire in the coming year, and that there isn't any point in having money in the budget for officers they're not going to be able to hire. So, obviously the mayor and the police chief know what they can do here, and so I would probably leave that one to them at this stage. But I believe that's the rationale. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Jacobson.
Thank you, Chair Footer. Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Ray on this. I think my understanding is that the challenge here is that even though in the past couple of years, the budget for MPD has increased for hiring more officers, they haven't been able to meet their FTE goals for that hiring. And I don't remember the exact number, but I think they're at least like a couple hundred short in terms of being able to fulfill the number of FTEs that they've had budgeted. And so I think putting more budget towards something that they've struggled with in the past year doesn't really make sense.
Commissioner Brown? You may be on mute.
Sorry. I would agree with that. And maybe we can, because just in hearing some of the concerns in the neighborhood, we can shift to propose more training on implicit bias and community policing.
Is that a bullet that do you mind elaborating a little bit on that? Is that a bullet you want to add here?
Something to add, yes.
So increased training on
investments in training on implicit bias and community policing. I'm aware that they do training on implicit bias, but it's optional. I'm not aware if they do training on community policing, but that's just something that I propose.
Awesome. I will accept that as a friendly amendment, but I do want to, Commissioner Newland, Commissioner Lancaster, as the people who were giving the authority to kind of testify on this, that you feel comfortable with those two bullets.
Yeah, I do. Thank you.
Likewise.
Great. All right. So that is everything on this resolution. Are there any other questions from commissioners on this?
Yeah, just really quick. Commissioner Ray was mentioning I think it was the Parkview Park, is that right? Being up for more funding. I'm happy to have someone testify that. I don't know that I'll have the time to come up with that. I'm not as close to the issue as our fellow Parkview residents. So if there's someone else that would want to testify on that, I'd be happy to have them listed as the person allowed to speak on behalf of the commission. And I only say that because it would usually fall under TPS.
DPR, oh yeah. Is there, Commissioner Ray, was there, are you volunteering to potentially be that voice?
I will volunteer to put something together, if not as testimony, at least as written testimony that can go. That we absolutely want to see the rec center renovated and updated, and I believe that the general thinking at the moment, just so everyone is clear, is that the money that has been in the budget, which now comes due, is likely not going to be enough because construction costs have gone sky high because of inflation. So we're just trying to make sure we're keeping up. That's it.
Commissioner Ray, is what's the department? GSA?
I believe probably DPR and DGS.
Okay, great. I'll accept that friendly amendment, and I'll word it the way so it's consistent with this. And the specific point is around funding. Say it one more time. It's funding for
the renovations at the Parkview Recreation Center.
Great.
And Commissioner Ray, if I have the time, actual testimony, I just can't commit to it right this second. So I guess we could say like Commissioner Ray or his designee, or Commissioner Ray or Commissioner Jacobson.
Yeah, why don't you put us both?
And then the only question I'd have is, does anyone know if the crime lab falls under MPD or the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and Justice? Just wondering if we're technically locking ourselves in unnecessarily with the last clause in the paragraph for Commissioners Lancaster and Newland.
I don't. Would you like to investigate that, considering it was yours?
Yeah, I can investigate it. Oh, Department of Forensic Sciences. It would fall under the Department of Forensic Sciences, which maybe falls under, but maybe to be on the safe side, we could just say MPD, the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and Justice, and the Department of Forensic Sciences.
Does the Department of Forensic Sciences provide their testimony under the Judiciary and Public Safety Committee?
It's a good question. Let's see if I can find that answer quickly.
It would be listed under the, well, in the committee hearing schedule.
Forensic. They do fall under the Committee on the Judiciary and Public Safety.
Marvelous.
Yeah, okay. And they are listed separately, so I assume we should list them separately too. I mean, maybe they report to the Mayor for Public Safety and Justice, and that's Department of Forensic Sciences. Sorry for challenging your spelling abilities tonight, Chair.
Oh, I know, it's terrible. Can you repeat that one thing about it falling under the deputy mayor? Because these are three different.
Oh, I was just saying, I don't know if it falls under the deputy mayor in the end. I'm just making an assumption that if it's listed separately in the performance oversight documents, that it might not. And so I think just to be safe, it makes sense to include it separately in there.
I'm sorry, I'm not tracking, because these are three different agencies that are going to provide testimony at three different times to the council under the Committee of the Judiciary and Public Safety. So it doesn't matter if they're under the deputy mayor.
Oh, I see. Then never mind.
So just a point of information, I have supplemented Commissioner Jacobson's Googling skills with some of my own and can confirm, according to the website of the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and Justice, that the Department of Forensic Sciences does fall under that cluster of agencies.
Awesome. All right. Thank you for that. Anything else?
Though I will point out that the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and Justice has a hearing that is separate from the Department of Forensic Sciences. And so this is more for
MPD.
It looks like it. Yes, those are three separate hearings. So if Commissioners Lancaster and Newland want help drafting some of those remarks, because we just then drafted you to write three separate testimonies. Happy to be a ghostwriter, and
Same. And to that point, these are the 3 or 5 different bullets. It will now, next step, be the responsibility of these authors to figure out, who is going to be responsible for this, or what jurisdiction does it fall under. And so these, there might be one bullet per these 3 different organizations. And yeah, if anybody needs help with constructing testimony, please ask. We have a number of people here who can help out, provide guidance. Okay. Seeing no other questions from people, I will ask members of the public, are there any questions with respect to this resolution? All right, seeing none. With that, I'll now accept a motion to adopt the resolution authorizing commissioners to provide testimony on behalf of ANC 1E at DC Council budget hearings. Is there a motion?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Lancaster. And do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, Commissioner Jacobson. The motion is moved and seconded. All those in favor of adopting the resolution authorizing commissioners to provide testimony on behalf of ANC 1E at DC Council budget hearings signify by verbally saying aye.
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 Thank you. All those opposed signify by verbally saying nay. Any abstentions? All right, with 7 votes in favor and 0 votes opposed, the motion passes and the resolution is adopted. Thank you, everybody. And just a heads up, all the stuff that I've been editing, I'm gonna upload that onto the OneDrive tomorrow or Friday, so it'll be on there for people to view. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes, I'm gonna pull up the agenda. That concludes our official business. Where's the agenda? There it is.
Then I will go ahead and make a motion to adjourn until the next general meeting on Wednesday, April 26, 2023.
Would you like to make a motion with unanimous consent?
Well, I would like the chair to make the announcement about the meetings, since it's now part of what we're supposed to do.
Oh, yes, that's fair.
That is typically at the end of after we adjourn, but I can put it to the top. So before we conclude with our business for this evening, please note that the next general meeting of ANC1E is going to be on Wednesday, April 26, 2023. And the Committee of the Whole, otherwise known as the COW, is going to be on Tuesday, April 18th, 2023. I will just say that the Committee on the Whole is a meeting that the Commission hosts in order to prepare, and it's an administrative meeting, and so members of the public are more than welcome to come, but there will be no opportunities for the public to participate. The general meetings of the ANC, which are held for the most part on the 4th Wednesday of each month, and the committees are the times that we really engage with the community and ask for their input. Therefore, during the Committee on the Whole meetings, there are no decisions that are made. It is strictly administrative, and therefore there's really no need or space for community input. But again, members of the community are absolutely able to join, and all that information can be found on the ANC1E website, which is anc1e.org. Now, with that, I will now accept that motion for with unanimous consent, and please say it that way.
I motion that we adjourn with unanimous consent.
Is there any opposition? Does anybody oppose? Hearing none, motion passes. Congratulations for a successful 1 hour and 15-minute meeting. We are now adjourned at 9:14 p.m. I already mentioned when the next meetings will be. They will both be virtual. I will note, because we have heard from some members of the public that they would like for our meetings to be in person. We are working very hard to do that. And we are targeting for May to be one of our first hybrid, which means in-person and virtual meetings, and more details to come during our April meeting. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening.
Night.
Bye. Good night.
Night.
Night all.